Hey everyone, welcome to Trail Stage, and this week we're talking about heel striking. Like many of you watching, I struggled with back pain and I always stayed away from running because I felt like it exacerbated the issue. Well, as it turns out, it wasn't the running, but rather how I was running that was the problem. In this video, we'll go over the techniques I used to break this terrible habit and improve my foot strike. But before we get too far, please know I'm not a running coach, and this isn't an instructional video on how to run properly, it's just what worked for me. Now, having said that, I was able to correct and improve my foot strike in 2 simple steps. Step 1 was learning to land on my forefoot. Once I got the hang of that, then step 2 was to slowly modify and refine that into a midfoot strike. So let's get into how I did that. Learning to run on the balls of your feet like a sprinter seemed like a daunting task. And if you've ever watched any sprinters, their heels never touch the ground. Now, there are some high-tech insoles and some running analysis tools on the market, but I wanted to explore something that was a little less expensive. And relying on a camera for visual confirmation all the time isn't feasible or enjoyable. So finding something that could provide instant visual and audible feedback was quite challenging. Now, the thought of pushing some flat metal thumbtacks into the tread of my shoe did cross my mind, but at the end of the day, having something that sharp so close to my feet made me a little bit uneasy. So instead, I went with tape. For me, this checks off all the boxes. It's inexpensive, readily available, and easy to apply. Tape also provides immediate audible feedback while running and gives me a visual reference I can analyze during or after my run. Now, the kind of tape that you want to use is up to you, but I went with a painter's tape, but masking tape could also work. By placing a layer of tape on the heels of my shoes, I was able to hear and feel when my heels made contact with the ground. The plasticky paper-like material sounds crunchy when you strike it, almost like stepping on a candy wrapper. This allowed me to focus on striking with my forefoot. Now, I do want to note that it is difficult to break a bad habit, so give yourself some time. Stick with flat surfaces like pavement, shorten your runs, and stay away from any climbs or descents. Running with any kind of elevation makes it tricky to analyze your strike, as you'll naturally want to land more on your forefoot on a climb and heel strike more on the descent. Now, you'll also be employing some different muscle groups, so make sure you don't overdo it at the start. I remember my calves being pretty sore the first time, and it took me a few weeks until I was comfortably running on my forefoot. But anyone that's been running for a while knows how hard it is to run long distances on the balls of your feet. So the next step for me was to slowly transition from being a forefoot striker to a midfoot striker, and I did this by using gravel. Now, I'm not a fan of running on gravel. For one, it's harder and always feels like I'm wasting energy. And 2, it's rougher on my shoes. However, I do have to admit it is excellent at perfecting your foot strike. Let me explain. Much like tape, gravel provides audible and visual feedback. A few things I look for in my own strike are my landing and push-off. If you're seeing a lot of gravel being kicked forward, that probably means that you're either not lifting your feet high enough or you're kicking your foot out too far in front of you. Either way, it's incredibly inefficient and it could lead to injuries. Regarding the push-off, it's natural to have some rocks being spit out the back, but if you're seeing a ton of rocks being kicked out the back, then you might be pushing off a little bit too hard. Again, the loss of friction is a waste of energy and could be a sign that you're leaning too far forward or your gait is too wide. When I'm running on gravel, I try to run with intention. And by that I mean I'm thinking about how my foot is making contact with the ground and visualizing the plant and release of each foot. Now, I know that sounds exhausting, but it really does help. Gravel provides a lot of information, you just have to be open to receiving it. And if you don't have any gravel, wood chips can also work, although you won't get as much audible feedback. And while I'm not a running coach, if you do want some information on some proper running form, check out my buddy Paul's YouTube channel, Dev Runner. He's a certified running coach and one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I'll leave a link to his page in the description below. So if you want to improve your foot strike, try out these 2 methods. You don't need special sneakers or expensive inserts. You can use the shoes you're currently running in. And that's great because adjusting to new gear is just one more factor to consider when you're making a big change. Well, that does it for this video. If you found it helpful, hit that like button. And if you have any feedback or questions, leave them in the comments below. And finally, if you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Why is that so high? +70. Definitely getting light on the shoulder. This is not an instructional. Step 1 was learning to land on my forefoot. Once I got the hang of that, birds flew in and ruined the whole take. A little bit, All right, take 2. That's weird. This allowed me to focus on strike. This allowed me to focus to strike it. Woo! I'm loving it. I'm not loving it. Take 3. It's like they're having a marching band upstairs. If you found it helpful, hit that like button. And if you found